Peace and greetings from Liam Jarrett with the Aquarian, here talking to you the day before we reach our summer solstice, where the sun is at the top of the mount in the book of life. The Capricorn mount is in the land of the earth, but the hill of Cancer is the mound of the moon, and as opposed to Saturn, Satan's mound. When Jesus in the story is tempted on the mount, Saturn takes him up to the top of the mount and has him look over and says, "You could have dominion over all this." That's Capricorns with Saturn as the ruler. In Capricorn, Saturn is the adversary, the opposite sign to the summer solstice of the sacred scarab, which got turned into a crab because in the east they didn't have scarabs, which are dung beetles that roll its balls up and down a hill, symbolizing the sun rising up and down the hill. So when the sun gets to the top of its pole, the top of its height, it enters into the sign of Cancer, which is of the moon, which makes a chalice for the sword, for the flame of the sun. What resembles this in the Tarot deck is the Chariot card of the Tarot, of the major arcana, and it's related to Cancer, and it's a young warrior king in a chariot leaving his kingdom to go out. Because similarly, on the Mount of Capricorn, Jesus has his temptations and he says I have to go into town to suffer and die. And then he says, "Get behind me, Saturn." And then they go down into town, comes off the mount, and goes into his death ultimately as a sacrifice, which is a whole nother story of messed upness, an allegory, mostly celestial. So now in front of the card of Cancer, which is the Chariot, when you think of Cancer, you think of a maternal, motherly instinct, but it can also be protective of your land. Like patriotism is a Cancerian thing. It's how we feel about protecting our home. That could be also like a bird who protects her nest. But she is a cardinal water sign in the season of Earth, starting us off, meaning cardinal. I remember that by, usually you see a cardinal at the start of spring, the Aries season, red. Right now we're at the start of summer with a water sign, the first time we have water introduced into the zodiac. The emotional realm being new, a new way of feeling about life, a new way of nurturing something, hopefully ourself, healing on a soul level, entering back into the womb to be born again, or to be born in the spiritual realm this time. Right now we're being born in the waters of life. Isis, the star Sirius, will make herself known months, about in a month. But her rising, when our sun is conjunct Isis, Sirius, is July 4th. The Mason astrologers who set that up knew very well. Also why they chose the number 13, which is dealing with the moon often, because we have 13 lunar months in a year. Or it's the 13th sign of the zodiac, could be Ophiuchus or Orion, who stands above the wheel, the 12. That's why it irks me when I hear people talk about how this fictitious character, King Arthur, that people think was real, sits above the table. And when people say, see, King Arthur wanted a democracy with everybody equal, and so he created a round table that he didn't even sit at. He was like on his throne. Fucked up. At the front of the chariot are either a black or a white sphinx. These are symbols. They would sit at the front of the entrance into the pyramids, which were the temples that housed the priestesses. The sign of Cancer is the home of the major Cana and minor Cana, Procyon and Sirius, the dog stars. When the sun hits there in summer, when it's conjunct those stars, that's the dog days of summer. And that's when we don't see it at night because it's together with the sun. In order to see a star at sunset or sunrise, I'm thinking it has to be 15 degrees on either side, or maybe 15. That's why Mercury is so close to the sun, you rarely see him. He pops his head up only occasionally. That's why it's known as the trickster. I think relates to Loki, but it has to do with the monkey mind brain that is uber active. But it could also, Mercury is the magician. It's the scribe. It's the messenger of the gods because it goes from the sun to earth. Mercury is in charge of the 2 out of the 3 mutable signs of the zodiac, moving, shape-shifting even. So one of the sphinxes is white, the other one is black in iconography and in the Arthur Rider-Waite deck of the tarot, and they'll incorporate it in others. We have Isis, who is married to Osiris, who is Orion. Behind her, the Virgin. It's called a dog now, but it used to be a virgin. I think that's why where we might get calling women bitches from. So we turn a beautiful goddess of the heaven into a bitch, because they love to suppress the sacred feminine, because in the sacred feminine is enlightenment. The moon, Ajna, rules the third eye and is essential into completing the crown of a marriage of Kronos and the corona of the sun, I believe. So the dark one is Nephthys, who is the wife's sister to Set of the darkness. And she is the lady of the night, the lady of the temple, and the inner temple. Isis is a virgin at the entrance of the temple. One is the goddess of wine, Isis. The other, Nephthys, the goddess of beer. They have the black and white dichotomy, both feminine though. They pull the chariot. The charioteer doesn't even hold the reins. He trusts in his intuition and the guidance and the wisdom of the goddess. And he's going out to run shit. Let's go.